As if he had just arrived from a typical day, Keanu Reeves walks into an opulent restaurant in the heart of the city wearing plain, wrinkled clothing. He selects a stealthy table in an attempt to blend in as the area is illuminated by crystal chandeliers. Before he can even place his order, however, a waitress arrives with a contemptuous expression and a haughty stance. "Are you sure you can afford to be here?" she asks, her tone ironic, and laughs loudly enough for other customers to hear what follows. Let us know where you're watching from before we continue this tale. If you appreciate stories like this, please subscribe to the channel because tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. everyone in the restaurant is startled but discovers a fact that alters everything. Here's another unique tale for you. The Lumiere restaurant, a landmark of refinement in Beverly Hills, was situated on one of the most prominent avenues in the city. Its expansive windows provided a view of the streets, which were lit up by opulent neon signs and the slow-moving sports vehicles within. Every element was thoughtfully chosen to make an impression. Lumiere was more than simply a restaurant, it was a place for those who wanted to be noticed and appreciated. Ashley, one of the most seasoned waitresses at Lumiere, walked confidently across the dining area with a practiced smile on her face. At least that's how Ashley saw it. Working as a waitress at one of Beverly Hills' most famous restaurants was a pleasure, and her immaculate bun and fitted uniform bolstered her image of efficiency and control. Whenever she had the opportunity, Ashley's extreme pride frequently boiled over into arrogance. She also had a strange ability to mentally classify customers based on their appearance, behavior, and attire in a flash, something that other people simply don't do. "Belong here," she frequently believed, as the restaurant's glass door opened smoothly and a man entered wearing a pair of faded trousers, a basic shirt, and a jacket that appeared cozy but lacked any premium branding. His presence was almost subtle. Unnoticed as he walked coolly to the registration desk, Keanu Reeves, one of Hollywood's most famous stars, wasn't a man who liked showing off his wealth. His modest manner contrasted sharply with the opulent glitter of Beverly Hills, and as Ashley was occupied at the reception desk chatting to another employee about a VIP reservation, he appeared to be just another regular customer at that point. She suddenly stopped talking and narrowed her eyes as with hardly veiled contempt, she evaluated him. He didn't resemble the usual Lumiere clientele. Without masking her emotion, she cocked her head and gave him a slow one, her gaze resting on his forehead when she answered, "Good evening, Boots." She forced a grin that vanished almost immediately. "How can I help you?" "I'd like a table, please." Keanu's tone was calm and courteous. Ashley arched an eyebrow as though she had just heard something ridiculous, and her attitude seemed to question how he said calmly, "Yes, this is the place," and Ashley gave a brief, disbelieving giggle while shaking her head. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" she asked, crossing her arms, her smile completely disappearing. "I need to check something for a moment," so I turned swiftly without trying to be courteous. She went to the reception office and used the reservation system there, inputting his name with a lot of flair. When nothing appeared, she rolled her eyes and returned to the dining room, clearly irritated, and explained, "I suspected you don't have a reservation," in a sarcastic tone. "We do have a few tables available, but just so you know, this isn't a casual dining spot," she remarked, and Keanu remained cool and unfazed. Seemingly aggravating her even more, he said, "I'd like to dine here," in the same tone. Ashley exhaled and abruptly grabbed a menu, saying, "All right, but I'll need to seat you in a suitable area, follow me." She started to move quickly through the dining room without turning around to check if he was following. She threw the menu on the table with a loud thump as they arrived in the restaurant's most unappealing corner. "Here you go, this table is perfect for you," she said in a falsely lovely tone. "If you need." As she left, Ashley murmured something under her breath loud enough for a couple nearby to hear, "He won't." Keanu kept his small smile, disregarding her tone, and thanked her. "I'm sure this will be an intriguing experience." As soon as he opens the menu across the dining room, Keanu slowly opens it and looks over the alternatives without hurrying. The live music still fills the room, but there's something intriguing about his posture that makes you wonder if he'll depart after 5 minutes. From the opposite side of the room, Ashley saw with a smug grin that he would soon ask for the check and vanish, and she led Keanu around the dining room in swift, robotic movements without even glancing at him. Nothing could disrupt his tranquility. Rather than selecting a table in the middle of the restaurant, where the golden light from the chandeliers accentuates the elegance of the setting, she leads him to the restaurant's most obscure and dimly lit area, where he can hear the sound of dishes being washed. And the staff's muffled conversation creates a setting that is very different from the rest of the dining room. "Here you go, this table should do," she says, sloppily placing the menu on the table. "I think you'll feel comfortable here, it's more private." Keanu looks at the table and he then gives Ashley a little, unchanging smile and says, "Thank you," quietly. She crosses her arms and narrows her eyes, as though she's trying to determine whether he's being sarcastic or just unsure. "You're welcome," she says, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Since we don't have anything scheduled for tonight, she disappears before he can react. When Ashley comes back to the table to take his order, her actions become even more ruthless, and she gestures exaggeratedly at her notepad and looks at Keanu icily. "Have you decided what you'd like?" she says, her voice uninterested, "or would you like a recommendation?" Keanu calmly points to one of the most. Ashley stifles a giggle and covers her mouth with one hand as if to conceal a sarcastic remark. "Of course the filet de Rossini *" She continues in a patronizing manner, "A classic dish, just to confirm, sir, you do. Costly main courses, I'd like to try this one." Keanu nods in coolly, unflinching manner, "Yes, it sounds great." She tilts her head, her lips curling into a sly smile. "All right, then, just to make sure there aren't any misunderstandings later, I suggest you double-check the prices we can." Ashley lets out a big sigh as though she's doing him a great favor and jots down the order as you like, but I'll tell you that Keanu seems unmoved, which seems to aggravate her even more. "I won't want anyone to have bad shocks. Our chef prefers that those who genuinely value great dining love dishes like this. I hope it lives up to your expectations." She spins on her heels once again, but before she leaves, she pauses and turns around. "Oh, and the minimum tip required here is 20%. Keeping that in mind as you wait, Keanu looks around the dining area, taking in the decor and the pianist's performance, seemingly undisturbed by the discomfort Ashley is trying to provoke. When the appetizer is served, Ashley puts the plate down firmly, causing it to slide a little across the table, and she says, "Here's your appetizer. I hope you enjoy it, or at least know what you're eating." Keanu gives her a mocking smile, and Ashley leans in slightly as though she's trying to get a response. "You know, a lot of customers who order this dish and end up not enjoying it. It's not exactly mainstream, but I think you'll do just fine. Good luck." Keanu glances at her calmly as usual. "It looks great. I appreciate your attention, but I'm frustrated that she can't make you feel anything bad." Keanu keeps eating his appetizer while Ashley leaves, grumbling to a coworker that he won't even finish the main course and will want payment as soon as he gets the bill. Ashley observes him lounging in the dining area with her arms crossed and a sly smile on her lips. She remarks to another employee, "I bet he's going to ask for tap water because these types always do." Clearly uncomfortable, he ignores her, but the older patron at an adjacent table keeps watching as he lifts his wine glass and silently toasts in Keanu's direction. He nods slightly and smiles, acknowledging that supper is just getting started. Not long after taking Keanu's order, Ashley made the decision to discipline the client she felt had no business there. Rather than rushing the order to the kitchen, she made it a point to give the customers she served priority. Considered more significant, she paused to speak with a sophisticated couple in the middle of the dining room, laughed wildly at a joke that another guest had told, and even brought a cocktail to a table that wasn't hers. Meanwhile, time went by, and Keanu kept waiting. After a lengthy wait, Keanu was patiently trying to agitate him further by walking past his table repeatedly while feigning to be busy. Each time he looked in her direction, Ashley avoided his gaze and sped up her feet as though she was too busy to help him. The old man, who was wearing a navy blue suit and had white hair that was nicely combed, came up smiling and said, "Good evening, young man. I hope it's okay to interrupt, but I've seen that." The elderly man chuckled softly and leaned in to talk more quietly. "You know, sometimes being treated like this is a test of our patience, but I can state with clarity that." Keanu smiled back calmly. "You've been overlooked," he continued in a courteous but forceful tone. Assuredness that keeping your cool is a huge show of strength. Before Keanu could respond, Ashley abruptly interrupted the conversation, asking the elderly man if she could help him with something. Her tone was more formal than usual, but she was quietly assertive tone. "I don't want you to bother our customer." The elderly man narrowed his eyes at her, but he remained calm. "Don't worry, Mississippi. I was just greeting this gentleman here." "It's rare to find someone so many times," serene Ashley said. Keanu just watched the exchange, his demeanor calm but analytical, and added, "Thank you for coming over," with a tiny sigh. "Maybe you should return to your table and enjoy your dinner," she continued, evidently agitated. The man nodded and said, "It was a pleasure speaking with you." He then went back to his table, but not before giving Ashley one final disapproving glance. Ashley seemed completely uninterested, so when she eventually prepared Keanu's main dish, she took longer than necessary. When she eventually brought the dish out, she set it on Keanu's table with the chefs after first stopping in the kitchen to talk with them and putting it under the warming lamp. She then went back to the dining room to attend another table, utterly ignoring the plate that was ready. With the same cool manner as previously, Keanu thanked her and added, "Here's your order, I hope you enjoy it." Her tone was full of cynicism. "Oh, and if you don't like it, please let us know, we can always adjust to something more affordable." "It looks excellent, thank you," she remarked. Ashley smiled cynically and leaned in with her voice lowered just enough for him to hear. "Are you sure that's a very sophisticated dish?" "That would be tough for someone who's not used to it," she said calmly. "Thank you for your." Ashley was upset and frustrated that she was unable to get a negative response from him. She hurriedly left the pub after saying to a coworker that he was attempting in vain to ignore her comments, while he was acting kind. Her coworker attempted a grin, saying, "Obviously he's uncomfortable." She laughed and put an empty glass on the counter. "I bet he doesn't even know what he's eating." It's always the same with these sorts, they come here to feel important but end up looking foolish. Ashley glanced at him incredulously, as if he were any other regular client. "Did you notice the boots he was wearing? He doesn't belong here, and to be honest, if he can't take it, we should treat him like any other customer. He seems uneasy, perhaps just wanting to have supper." In the meantime, the couple who had been watching the scene earlier muttered to one another, "She's awful." The woman shook her head, "He's being so polite but she keeps trying to humiliate him." "I agree," and the man scowled. When Ashley came back to clear the plate, Keanu calmly finished his main meal and looked around, taking in the sympathetic looks of other customers. "It's shameful, and I believe we should speak with the manager back at his table." She continued with a phony smile, her face still full of contempt. "How was the dish? Did it meet your expectations?" Keanu looked her in the eyes and said, "It was excellent, thank you. Please tell the chefs they did an impeccable job." She raised her eyebrows. "He may be grinning now, but we'll see if he remains so when the bill arrives and Keanu is sat at the table peacefully." She grumbled to herself as she left, amazed that she couldn't elicit any objections or annoyance. Noticed a faint grin on his face, and his eyes appeared to indicate that the time to act was approaching. Ashley, growing more irritated at her failure to provoke Keanu, chose to intensify her provocations after giving him the coffee he had asked for. Shouted loud enough for other tables around to hear, "You know, it's hard to maintain standards when just anyone thinks they can walk in," she stated to a coworker, glaring directly at Keanu. The coworker, who was clearly uncomfortable, attempted to change the. Ashley went on to say, "That's why we have a reservations policy, it helps us avoid situations like this." A number of surrounding customers started to pay attention, some of them frowning, others whispering among themselves, and the couple who had been watching the incident became indignant. The woman put her palm on her chest and said, "This is ridiculous. She's trying to embarrass the man in public." The old man at the next table sipped his wine and watched the event with a disapproving expression. "This has gone too." Keanu was still sitting quietly at his table, surveying the room without showing any signs of annoyance. Ashley seemed to become even more uneasy because she could feel other customers' eyes on her. A well-dressed woman sitting 2 tables ahead of her said to her friend, "He must," the man said, "be someone important to stay this calm. Anyone else would have left by now, or maybe he's just stronger than she realizes." Ashley returned to Keanu's table to inquire if he needed anything, glancing curiously at him in an attempt to elicit a response. Anyhow, her demeanor was anything but professional. "I hope you're enjoying your experience," she remarked, smiling sarcastically. "After all, it's always nice to have a variety of individuals here since it gives a certain touch to the environment." Keanu looked at her steadily and then answered, his voice calm but heavy. "Could you explain what you mean by that?" Ashley laughed a little nervously, trying to keep her cool. "Oh, don't take it the wrong way. It's just that our audience tends to be more conventional, so it's uncommon to see someone with your sense of taste here." The adjacent diners stopped talking, obviously paying attention to what was going on, and Ashley was happy with the attention she received. Keanu remained silent for a few moments, maintaining eye contact with her, his face hard but not angry, and then he said, "You're right, maybe I should handle this differently." Ashley blinked in confusion, but before she, the middle-aged restaurant manager, who had perfect posture and an air of power, could react. He looked around the room and detected the tight mood right once. When his eyes fell on Keanu, his countenance altered dramatically. Ashley was totally ignored as they rushed to the table. "Mr. Reeves," the manager said in a respectful tone, "I didn't know you were visiting us today. Please let me know how I can assist you." Ashley's face went pale as she watched the situation play out. She looked at the manager and then at Keanu, who was completely perplexed. Keanu took the manager's eye for a second before returning his focus to Ashley. "Let's speak about how we treat." All eyes were on Keanu's table, waiting to see what would happen next. The manager of Lamire, a man with a powerful presence and excellent look, was clearly frightened as he took in the situation, disregarding Ashley. The stillness in the room was deafening. He spoke to Keanu directly, leaning slightly in a respectful gesture. "Mr. Reeves, I sincerely apologize for the delay in acknowledging you. It's an honor to have you with us this evening. Please let me know how I can make your experience more enjoyable," he said. Note full of differences. Ashley, who up until that point thought she was in charge of the situation, stopped as her mind raced trying to comprehend what was happening. Mr. Reeves, he knows him. Keanu glanced at the manager and offered a small smile of gratitude, "But don't worry, I'm all right. I just want to talk to your employees for a little while, if that's okay." The manager's face instantly became worried, thinking that something was wrong. "Of course, Mr. Reeves, whatever you..." He gave Ashley, who was standing next to them, a stern look of disapproval. Ashley was pale and clearly uneasy, and she started to stammer in an attempt to regain some control. "I didn't know. I assumed." The manager cut her off. Firmly believing that this patron, who also happens to be one of the restaurant's owners, didn't merit the same regard as everyone else. His voice was quiet, but it was so serious that it took away the last of the color from Ashley's face. He didn't reveal his identity to her, and she walked away after realizing that saying anything would only make things worse. Keanu eventually broke the stillness, his voice calm but resonating throughout the room. "There's no need to state who I am to be," he remarked. "Honestly, it shouldn't matter who enters these doors. Everyone should be treated with decency regardless of how they look." The entire dining room was captivated, and many patrons spoke to one another in shock at the revelation that Keanu was one of the restaurant's owners. The couple who had been watching the exchange seemed happy, and the elderly man nodded subtly in agreement. Nearby tables were bustling with quiet chatter, and a man sitting with his wife muttered, "I knew he has a presence that makes it tough to ignore." The woman nodded, and judging by the way he handled it, "Grace, I hope she took something away from this." Other diners muttered among themselves, some of them obviously embarrassed that they hadn't stepped in. Previously, the dining room was uncomfortable, but there was a noticeable sense of excitement as everyone anticipated how this would finish. The manager turned back to Ashley, his countenance a mixture of constraint and frustration. "Ashley, I expect a thorough explanation of your actions after your shift, but for now, please leave this table and keep away from it. I'll take over." Ashley started to object, but the manager's unwavering gaze cut her off with a sudden motion, so she quickly turned around. Keanu took a long breath and got to his feet, avoiding the patron's stares. Realizing that everyone was staring at him, he spoke in a composed, authoritative tone, explaining that the restaurant was established with the intention of being a place where everyone. Unfortunately, that was not the case today, but I think we can learn from it. The diners listened to his words in silence, and the manager looked both uncomfortable and appreciative of the manner they were treated. While Keanu was taking care of the matter, he turned to the manager and said, "I'd like to meet with the entire team after the dining room closes because there are some important things we need to discuss." The manager nodded right away, and it would be completed. "Once again, I apologize, Mr. Reeves." Despite the fact that the customers were still chatting among themselves about what they had just seen, the Lumiere dining room was quiet, the crew was collected, and Keanu Reeves stayed in the middle. He commanded the room, looking about him with eyes that met everyone's, exuding a deep sense of calm but also steadfast resolve. "We all make mistakes," he said, starting off with a steady, powerful voice, "but what really counts is what we do today after those mistakes. I want you to know that this is not a condemnation, rather, it is an opportunity." Keanu paused to let his words to settle before continuing to look at Ashley. "We saw the impact of snap judgments, hidden biases, and a lack of empathy, but we also witnessed an issue that goes far beyond poor service." He said in a soft yet strong tone, "I know what happened today was a mistake, and mistakes can be corrected as long as there is effort and a willingness to learn. How what you choose to do next will define who you are." To Ashley, who was sitting in the back, her eyes full of sadness and shame. "It's all too easy to make snap judgments about people based on their outward look, clothing, driving style, or place of residence, but I want you to think about something happens when you decide to show kindness to someone, when you choose to see past outward appearances and see the humanity of another person." He moved forward, putting his hands in his pockets, his tone growing more thoughtful. He put his hands in his pockets and his voice grew more thoughtful. "We all face challenges that no one else can see. The person who doesn't fit in could be having the worst day of their lives, and the one who doesn't dress appropriately could have accomplished more than you could. Imagine how the compassion we choose to show, even to people who don't seem deserving, could be the act that makes all the difference." The workers listened to him in silence, some of them clearly moved, while others just glanced at the floor, plainly thinking about themselves. When Ashley eventually raised her head and wiped away her tears, her words was calm but filled with regret. She acknowledged that I had never given it that much thought previously since I was too preoccupied with upholding the restaurant's reputation. That I've lost sight of what's important and that everyone is valuable regardless of their identity or appearance. I swear, Mr. Reeves, I'll change." Keanu nodded and gave her a small, reassuring smile, "But that promise is only to Ashley and not to me. Comes from within, and I'll be here if you need help along the way." She nodded forcefully, a wave of relief and resolve washing over her. Her kindness isn't about big gestures, but rather about the little decisions we make every day, and it's about treating everyone we meet as. Keanu only nodded, delivering a simple explanation. "If they matter, because they do, and that is what makes the character of a place and of a person." "Oh, Mr. Reeves, your message was plain. We'll try to guarantee that Lumiere reflects exactly what you envisioned. Thank you for reminding us of that." The streets of Beverly Hills were illuminated by the city lights as he left the restaurant. He stopped for a moment on the sidewalk to look at Lumiere's entrance, and his gentle smile reappeared as he thought back on what had happened. That Keanu understood that even in the most trying circumstances, there was a chance to inspire and uplift others. The evening wasn't just about a restaurant or a mistreated customer, it was about the significance of establishing environments where people feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Keanu reflected on his words as well as the lesson he hoped others would learn from that evening as he strolled through the illuminated streets. If he could leave everyone who heard the story with just one final thought, it would be this: where you can be anything, choose to be kind, and remember that true strength comes from acceptance rather than condemnation. Above all, keep in mind that the little decisions we make each day both influence the world around us and our identities as people. If you like this story, we have clicked the screen to view more stories, including many more that will make you smile. Of hope, kindness, and fortitude.